Hi everyone, this is my Heroic Sisters guide. The raid came out last night. We had our first run through. We started in Heroic. All these fights were new to us, so what you're going to see is our first kill. It was our 5th attempt on the fight, so it's not perfect yet, mind you, but I can show you exactly what you need to do to tank it and survive, at least. And again, probably not perfect, so I'll start with the talents. For talents, I used Abyssal Strike, Fallout, Flame Crash, Fracture, Concentrated Sigils, Spirit Bomb, and Demonic Infusion. I used Demonic Infusion because, looking at my stats here, 74% of all the damage I took was physical. So Soul Barrier is still good, but in this situation I found that, and I'll show you in the video, that during Phase 2, when I'm tanking, I don't know if there's a weird bug or there's a mechanic that we don't know about, but the ad in Phase 2 excuse me, would hit me twice in a row, like instantly, just doo-doo. And it happened 2 times in a row, 3 times in a row, and it killed me twice in 2 of the attempts. And so my whole goal was to make sure I had Demon Spikes up the entire time because it was all physical damage. So I don't know if she's supposed to do that because I don't see that anywhere in the logs. I don't know if there's an ability that makes her do that, but it happened. So I found that Demonic Infusion for this fight actually worked better than Soul Barrier. If you prefer Soul Barrier, it can work, but recommend Demonic. Razor Spikes would give you more damage, but being my first kill, I wanted to focus on keeping my DS charges for survival and not for offensive, so I ran with Abyssal. And the other talents, yeah, so that's what I recommend for talents. Gear-wise, I used a Pride for my legendary, and I used a Archimonde's Trinket for legendary. A lot of other legendaries would be perfectly fine for this fight. Let me pop this up here. Loot. So other trinket or legendaries you can use for this fight. Let me see here. Don't use cloak because there's like 20% magic. That's not worth it. If you want damage, the waist would be okay. Bracers are worthless. Shoulders are worthless. The boots would be okay. Safus would not be good because you're not proccing on anything. So Fragment would be okay for healing. Legs are definitely one of the BIS items, especially with DI, so I would recommend either Pridus, Trinket, Pants, Ring, possibly, if you have nothing better. In the last case, I would probably say the belt. And for your other gear, if you have the 2-piece tier 20, where the 2-piece, the 4-piece is worthless, tier 19 is worthless, we use the Spirit Bomb build, so out of 5 bosses, almost 6 bosses we killed last night in 3 hours, I used Soul Cleave 0 times the entire night. So tier 19 and the 4-piece tier 20 is not worth it. Dark Moon card, highly recommend this. This is the best physical damage reduction trinket in the game, and highly recommend it, especially for Phase 2 if you're solo tanking most of Phase 2. Other than that, it's just eye level, so just get the highest eye level pieces that you have and go with that. Consumables is always the same: Agility Flask, Feast. Make sure you're in Havoc spec when you eat the Feast so you get the Agility buff. And then potions, I use Prolonged Power, but if you want to get a little extra burst during the Bloodlust, then you would use Old War. So that is the raid, or the boss setup, so let's go ahead and look at the video. Alright, so here we are. We are in the room of the sisters. There's 3 of them. There's a Huntress, and I can't remember the rest of their names, to be honest with you. For positioning for Phase 1, 2, and 3, you want to position the boss on the nipple, right where she is now, and you want her there in all 3 phases. The star is for the glaive throw for Phase 1. She's going to pick a random person and throw a glaive at them. They just go to star when they get the debuff. So on the pull, I open up with Fiery Brand and do the Fiery Demise rotation. So Immolation, Carver, Spirit Bomb at 4 to 5 souls. So basically this fight is a little boring for tanks, to be honest with you. Because we just taunt or we just DPS. We don't really do much. But let's go over this debuff and talk about what just happened. So there is a lunar and there's an astral cycle. Right now I have 6 stacks of Lunar, which means for each stack I take 3% increased damage. So 6 stacks, I take, what, 30% increased damage? From anything that is Lunar. Now keep in mind, I'm looking at my damage intake from last night, and 74% of it is melee, so the magic damage, Lunar or Astral, that comes in is not that big of a deal in Heroic. However, what the boss just did is she just threw a glaive at me. And what that does is it puts a debuff on me that lowers, I believe, is the healing I receive by 75%. So when you get this, the other tank taunts, and how you get rid of it is you have to transition into the other type. So right now I have the Lunar debuff. I have to jump over into the Astral. You can tell because the floor here is dark, and over here is light. So I need to go over there, drop the debuff, and come back. So I'm going to go over, drop the buff, and come back. I'm going to pull threat here. Shouldn't have done that. I was waiting for him to taunt back, but I guess it was on cooldown, or he just didn't notice. So I get the debuff again. I instantly dropped it because I was trying to drop my stacks anyway.
Beware.
And back to DPSing. So a lot of this fight is you just taunt and DPS. You really don't do much. It is kind of boring for Heroic. So you taunt when he gets the debuff. DPS, 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 Spirit Bomb, Spirit Bomb. Alright, 70% phase 2 starts. So the one sister goes ethereal, and then you pull the other sister back to the current position. Now, what she does right away is she summons a Moon Talon ad, a pet you have to kill. Now, in phase 2, you can straight up solo tank the boss. There's nothing that forces you to tank swap. So ideally, you want to have one tank pick up the ad, and the other tank tank the boss, and you tank them on top of each other. The co-tank is still slightly under-geared, and I just keep spirit bombing that I have threatened both the entire time. The goal here is your DPS needs to kill Moon Talon first as soon as possible. He taunted the boss off, but I just DPS and pull back. This boss does hit really hard, and this is the phase I was talking about where I would just spike. And look at my combat logs after I died twice to it, is she would hit me twice at the same time, once in a while. And twice it happened back to back. I don't know why. Look at the logs, I couldn't find a reason why she was hitting me twice back to back at the same time, but she was. So this is the reason why I took Demon Spikes. I wanted to make sure I maintained as much uptime of Demon Spikes as possible. So you take Demonic Infusion. Right here, what we did was, and I want to say it's not needed, but we did it anyways. I had 17 stacks of Lunar, and just in case, or Lunar. I had 17 stacks of Lunar, and just in case I got hit by something that is shadow damage or Lunar damage, I want to make sure it doesn't hurt very much. So even though I don't think I had to do this, I did it anyways. Safety first. So I had him taunt, went over, dropped my stacks, and went back and started DPSing. Now there's one change in phase 2 I'm going to show you. It's coming right up. Any minute now. And you can see why this fight's kind of boring. You're just DPSing almost the entire time. Alright, so right here, I got picked by Twilight Glaive. Now, the boss that's on the tiger is the boss that throws this glaive. So what you want to do, if you're picked in phase 2, is you want to find where she's located and run at her. So I look up, she's not there, she's over here, I jump, and as you can see the glaive hit me, and it's going to go right back to her, so it hits nobody in the path. So this is good positioning. If I stayed, it would have hit the melee. So I moved over here, next to the tiger, or as close as I could in the time I had to react. Let it go back, stack back up. All right, so I'm gonna drop my stacks for safety, and then I'm gonna taunt the boss off, so he can drop his stacks. Also, this helps with the charge time. Like, if you have him taunt off, it helps with getting your charge back of your demon spikes and your demonic confusion. Phase 3 starts, you taunt the boss, you bring it back to nibble.
Beware.
If you notice there, a melee died because they were just nuking her from the very get-go instead of giving you time. I taunted right away, but they were just beating at her and got one shot. So, yeah, melee needs to slow down. So what you're going to notice here, the only change in this phase here is there's a lunar debuff, or astral debuff that puts fire on you. And this fire debuff is bad. So treat it like the Croesus debuff, where you want to taunt after so many, and you want to make sure you don't have high stacks of astral at the time. I have 7 lunar, so it does nothing. So treat this like Croesus, and just DPS when around 3 stacks or 2 stacks ahead of him taunt.
Beware.
So I was getting low.
Beware.
There's also a shadow glaive. I didn't say this before. There's like a bombardment of shadow glaives periodically. Just dodge them. Alright, so at 2 stacks I had him taunt, so I can drop my debuff. And how you want to treat this debuff is whenever your debuff wears off, you taunt. And one of the guys said you want to do it at 5, but you can get away with 2 or 3, and it's safer that way. I started to pull threat, so I started to lay off on damage. When my debuff wore off, I taunt the boss. And then you just do that rotation. Once it falls off, you just taunt. Now, a DPS really screws up a lot here, and I'm going to show you what they're not supposed to do. This is lunar fire, not astral fire. My fault for saying the wrong one. Yeah, the race starts to fall apart at this point a little bit. We lose a lot of people. Again, it's our first kill, so it's going to be sloppy. But you get to see how the tanking mechanics work, which is the goal here.
Beware.
Alright, so right here, you saw lunar beacon falling off in 1 second, and then they dropped this giant circle here, and they keep doing this. What this does is it does damage and silences you. So ideally, the DPS that gets this debuff leaves, and you never move the boss. But what they kept doing, because again they just did not understand the mechanic yet, is because they didn't move and dropped it, we have to start moving the boss around the room, and this is not ideal.
Beware.
So we have her back over here, and what you're going to see is they're going to drop it again in a minute. Yep, there's another lunar, so I'd move them again. Ideally, you should never have to move the boss in phase 3. I'm trying to find a spot where to stand when there's no silence, but there's nothing. I was going to taunt and move the boss out, but it was almost dead, so I didn't. And that's it. So most of the time here, basically you just DPS, and phase 1 you taunt off of glaive, and then you reset your debuff. Phase 2 you can straight tank it, you don't have to switch, but if you want to be safe than sorry, you can switch and drop your stacks. Phase 3 is the lunar debuff. You want to switch whenever you get 2. It looks like we were able to switch at 2, so you get 2 stacks, the other person taunts, 2 stacks, the other person taunts, and that's it. Assuming your DPS doesn't mess up and drop beacon into melee, you never have to move, you just stay there in your DPS, and that's the fight. I hope it helps. This is the first week of TOS. It's really fun, I'm enjoying it, so I hope this helps anybody that's learning the fight. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments. And if you like the video, please give me a thumbs up or subscribe. Thank you for watching.